is it possible for us to have pluralism? And I would say, not that it's possible, there has never been a more pluralistic society in the world than in Israel. Israel is a teeming diversity of different interpretive communities. There is no consensus as to what we should be. The only consensus is that we should go on living, and we should go on interpreting, and go on arguing. Elu ve'elu divrei Elohim chayim. And therefore no one should be read out of the Jewish people. And no one should be excluded from the discussion. And no one should be excluded from offering his interpretation. Come forward with your text and your commentary. That's what it means to become a member of Israeli society. The only thing to do in such a situation is to allow the discussion and the argument to go on without having the government decide which interpretation of Jewish history is correct. The land itself creates a public discussion. Living there creates a public drama. I don't need the state to give me those symbols. When you talk to people in a way which delegitimizes, vulgarizes their soul, then what you do is you create a rage. In order for there to be pluralism, there has to be a sense of what it means to argue with civility and decency. And therefore we have to give up the quest for absolute truths and absolute certainties and finalities. And the final need for pluralism, I believe the most important need for pluralism, is the way the land gets interpreted. The land, this text. Who lives on this land? Who does this land belong to? Who does this land welcome? Nebuch, we waited so long to come home, to have a home of our own. And in the same home that we thought we came home in, we forgot that there was another people living there also for hundreds of years who also feel it's their home. The great command of the land of the Bible is to love the stranger, because you were strangers in the land of Egypt. I've come home. I've come home to proclaim through my lived history. I have come home to say my body, my suffering, came always when people believe that there's one truth. I've come home to say that you can love your way of life without having to claim that you're the only one who mediates God's passion in history. And therefore, the land which at one time said welcome only to one people can now say there's room in this land to welcome another people as long as we think that the ultimate redemption will be decided by one faith. Humanity will be constantly in danger of an explosion of fanaticism that will engulf human history until the utter destruction. I want the Palestinians to know, and I want the world to know, that Jews have come home not to become like their oppressors, but to say we were slaves in Egypt. We suffered by those who preached one truth. We've come home now to say that God could love many ways, many peoples, and that the dream of history is not one general who's going to save the whole world, but many, many interpretive communities, many different people with different texts, trying to live with integrity. Is this possible? You know what Theodor Herzl said? Im tirtzu ein zu agada. If we only will it, it may become a reality. Thank you.